This is the second installment of my 3-part Pokémon Go critique. In the first video, I talked about the issues surrounding Pokestops, eggs, and the buddy system. If you haven't watched the first video, then please click the link on the screen now to make sure that you watch that video before this one. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's start from where we left off. 4. Gyms. Gyms are in-game locations in Pokémon Go linked to real-world landmarks, just like Pokestops. I love that gyms exist in the world of Pokémon Go, but I wish that they functioned much more like the gyms in Nintendo's Pokémon games and less like the portals in Niantic's Ingress game. For those that don't know, Ingress is Niantic's past game, the game that they made before Pokémon Go. Gyms give players the ability to earn Pokecoins and Stardust every 21 hours, but I feel that the team-based claiming system fails to adequately reward players for their individual efforts. Players receive multiples of 10 Pokecoins and 500 Stardust for each Pokemon that they have on a gym when claiming rewards. Players are then unable to claim any more rewards for another 21 hours. I'm glad that players are able to earn in-game rewards, but the claiming system rewards players for collecting at the right time instead of rewarding players for their efforts in battle. I personally feel that a system that directly rewarded players based on their battling ability at gyms would be a much fairer system for players. I also think that being able to earn Pokemon candies from battling in order to power up your Pokemon would have been a feature that fits thematically with the existing games in the Pokemon franchise. Being able to earn Pokemon candies from battling at gyms seems to make sense, but was noticeably omitted from the game. Claiming rewards from gyms has much more to do with the existence and levels of various local gyms than it does with the combat power of an individual's Pokemon. Claiming rewards often feels like it has more to do with luck than it does with skill. There are days where I'm unable to hold a gym for more than a few minutes before a rival claims it, while other days I'm able to jump onto clusters of gyms with open slots without having done any battling at all. The gym model as it currently exists is a luck-based first-comes, first-claims system. Players are currently able to receive rewards despite having not done any work, while players that have done the work to take down and build up gyms may not receive any rewards for their efforts. This issue is made worse when considering the effects that bots have in the game, where computers are able to battle and claim gyms faster than humans can without even being at the physical location of the gym. Niantic has been working diligently to ban bot accounts, but it would be nice to see them make a change to the game to prevent them from gaming the system in the first place. Gyms in Nintendo Pokemon games have always been about strength and typing continuity, but the gyms in Niantic's Pokemon Go is about team allegiance and getting there first. Thematically, these gyms have very little in common outside of the fact that players use Pokemon to battle one another. Awarding strength bonuses to Pokemon that share typings at gyms would have been a nice touch, and I believe that allowing players to contest teammates for spots on gyms would reward players for their strength while increasing the power of the gym overall. My final concern with gyms in Niantic's Pokemon Go is that they feel much more like turf wars between rival gangs than they do like the Pokemon gyms in Nintendo's core games. When I heard that Pokemon Go was being released, I was hoping that the gyms in the game would feel like the ones in Nintendo's franchise being brought to life. The inclusion of rival teams in Pokemon Go seems like an odd one. In each of the major entries of the Pokemon franchise from Nintendo, the player battles against a team, fighting for world domination. Whether it was Team Rocket, Magma, Aqua, Galactic, Plasma, Flare, or even the new Team Skull, teams have always been associated with villains in the Pokemon series. Thematically, I find it incredibly bizarre that Team Valor, Mystic, and Instinct exist in Pokemon Go. These rivalries are characteristic of the dynamic between Team Aqua and Team Magma, and they feel so contrary to anything that I would ever expect in a canon Pokemon game. It certainly doesn't feel like the rivals that I know from the Pokemon games. I find that the gym claiming system in Pokemon Go creates a hostile environment between players over the seemingly arbitrary decision of which team they chose. More often than not, I find that the rival teams create a lot of unnecessary animosity between players instead of fostering friendly rivalries. When working with an IP as iconic as Pokemon, I think that Niantic should have taken more precaution in order to create a safe and enjoyable game experience. These rivalries are also seemingly arbitrary since players don't have to accomplish any specific feats in order to join the different teams. I also find it odd that players aren't able to change teams after joining, especially since they are functionally identical. The only gameplay difference between the teams is which legendary bird a player will be able to obtain, but those aren't even available yet and a lot of players have already stopped playing. Having different bonuses for players for each team would have been a nice touch. Team Valor could get better rewards from gyms, Team Mystic could get better rewards from catching Pokemon, and Team Instinct could get better rewards for hatching eggs. Ultimately, it is Niantic's Pokemon game, but I think that varying gameplay between teams would have been a much better dynamic than these arbitrary rivalries. 5. Currencies. Pokecoins are an in-game currency that can be earned daily from gyms or purchased with real-world money. They allow players to purchase consumable items such as Pokeballs, incense, lucky eggs, and lure modules, as well as temporary egg incubators. The first thing I notice about the in-game shop is that Niantic has decided not to include the sale of Great Balls, berries, potions, vibes, or eggs in the store. All of these items can be obtained from Pokestops for free, and although many of these items are unlocked at higher levels, there's no foreseeable reason why they couldn't have just been level locked in the store. The second thing I noticed is that almost every item in the store is temporary. It seems fairly transparent to me that this is because Niantic is more concerned with making money than creating an enjoyable game experience, but ideally they should be able to do both. All of these items are overpriced, and it becomes really obvious when you flip the bartering exchange. If players were able to exchange 20 Pokeballs for 100 coins, I wouldn't even bother claiming gyms. Either the items are too expensive or the game is way too stingy with giving out Pokecoins, but either way, it makes me feel like Niantic is taking advantage of players. Players are able to purchase up to 14,500 Pokecoins at a time, a real-world value of $140. Nintendo's core Pokemon games retail for less than $50 brand new, which is nearly 1/3 of that cost. I can reasonably understand spending about $20 in order to get Pokemon storage upgrades and inventory item upgrades, but everything else in the store after that is exclusively temporary. I don't know about you, but I personally refuse to purchase any temporary video game items. I don't see the point. Even egg incubators, an item previously unneeded in Pokemon games, are temporary. If I was able to buy permanent egg incubators, I probably would. I think the same can be said for a lot of rural players. Players already have to travel in order to earn the rewards from hatching their eggs, forcing players to pay a potentially limitless amount of real-world money in order to be able to continue to hatch multiple eggs at a time makes Pokemon Go feel like players can just pay to win. If that was Niantic's intention, then they should have just put a game corner in every town and let players purchase Pokecoins in exchange for specific Pokemon. If Niantic wants to potentially make more money while increasing player morale, then I think that they should focus on selling a wider variety of permanent items. If Niantic wanted to win back at least some of their fan base, then I know that permanent egg incubators would go a long way as a first step. Including permanent boosts and upgrades might be a good idea as well. If there was a reasonable one-time fee that players could pay in order to receive more Great Balls, Super Potions, or even 10k eggs, then I think that that'd be a great incentive that would bring a lot of old players back into the game. There's a lot of room for creativity here, and I think that the Pokemon Go fanbase would really enjoy various boosts along these lines. 6. Catching Pokemon. Catching Pokemon is one of the central mechanics of Pokemon Go, but there are so many barriers to catching a Pokemon that the enjoyment decreases drastically by the time players stop encountering new creatures. The overarching goal of the Pokemon game series has always been to catch them all, but in Niantic's Pokemon Go, this often requires having to catch multiples of the same Pokemon in order to obtain its final evolved form, instead of being able to train the Pokemon through battle. It can be discouraging to attempt to evolve a Pokemon for this reason, especially if it was difficult to locate a single one of its unevolved forms already. Even when it comes to evolving Pokemon like Eevee, the element of choice and control has been completely taken away from the player. The entire nature of evolutions in the core Pokemon games was having control of the result, but even that has been taken away from players here. In Niantic's Pokemon Go, players have several barriers that prevent them from catching Pokemon. Some of these issues can be solved by having better tosses or by spending more money on Pokeballs, but having the Pokemon attack or flee an excellent curved ball punishes players even when their performance is nearly flawless. Better performance increases your chance of catching Pokemon, sure, but that doesn't change the fact that perfect performance can still be met with failure. A player's capturing potential has more to do with their location than it does with their level or skill. Players are required to capture up to 100 of the same Pokemon in order to be able to evolve them to their final form. Transferring Pokemon therefore becomes a necessary function in Pokemon Go, which completely goes against everything I understand about the Pokemon brand. Pokemon, at least to me, has always been about building a bond with your Pokemon and battling with your favorites, not an over-glorified game of catch and release. If I want to go fishing, then I'll grab my Super Rod and go down to Dragon Spiral Tower. At least then I'd have a reasonable chance of encountering and capturing a Dragonite. The experience of this game's capturing mechanics have left a bad taste in the mouths of many players already, and I have some recommendations for Niantic that might alleviate these difficult and daunting issues. First, extend the spawn time of Pokemon and allow players to pursue fleeing Pokemon. That way, if a rare Pokemon flees from an encounter, players are able to exchange physical exertion for additional chances at capturing said Pokemon. Extending and potentially even eliminating despawn times would allow players to catch Pokemon in their area without having Pokemon disappear right before their eyes. An alternative game, where Pokemon slowly drift away from the player in different directions, would force trainers to choose which Pokemon they want to pursue the most, in a really engaging way that also gets players active. Second, and final, inform players to where they can actually locate specific Pokemon. Nintendo Pokemon games have had mechanics like this in the past, where bulletin boards mention where specific Pokemon are swarming. Being able to track Pokemon was advertised with the game, and since the removal of the footstep feature, players have been longing for a way to track down specific Pokemon. I know that Niantic is currently working on improving their tracking system, but how long do players have to wait for a core functionality of the game? This has been part 2 of my Pokemon Go critique, and I hope you'll join me next time for the third and final installment. If you're one of the first people to watch this video and part 3 isn't out yet, then I encourage you to write a message below in the comment section. Your feedback and constructive criticism would be deeply appreciated as I continue to improve the content that I create. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope I see you again next time.